Tapping in.
Are we live?
Static effect. So this is off of CNN this week. World's first space hotel scheduled to open in 2027. If you're daydreaming of future travels while stuck at home during the pandemic, why fantasize about the beaches of Bali or the canals of Venice when vacationing space could be in the future? Back in 2019, Californian company, the Gateway Foundation, released plans for a cruise ship style hotel that could one day float above the Earth's atmosphere. Then called the Von Braun Station, the futuristic concept comprised of 24 modules connected by elevator shafts that make up a rotating wheel orbiting Earth, was scheduled to be fully operational by 2027. Let me read that again. The futuristic concept, comprised of 24 modules connected by elevator shafts that make up a rotating wheel orbiting the Earth, was scheduled to be fully operational by 2027. So, let me share with you what it looks like. Or you can look it up on your side what this particular thing looks like.
Yeah, I'm imagining something very like Star Trek, very, very like interstellar looking, right? The orbiting space station. And it quite frankly makes me seasick. But also, I think that's 2027 is a lot sooner than I would have anticipated, than I've ever thought like I would be seeing people hoteling, vacationing in space. Right now, I'm taking that date with a grain of salt because, you know, we always pushing back the album date. So maybe but even 2030 is sooner than I even thought about the idea of people. I mean, we've thought about the idea, but realistically, for there to be a hotel under construction, that's crazy.
Now, I'm glad you said how taking it with a grain of salt, because a lot of times when we hear these types of news, for instance, with the Boring Company and Elon Musk, they were supposed to have put a tunnel under LA 2019 or 2018 as they had initially projected. Don't fact check me on those numbers. That is a guess. And so a lot of the times you get these things and it doesn't usually happen when they say it's going to happen. But the concept of a hotel in the sky, that it's cool. It's a cool idea, but I don't know if I'm going to be one of those people that's just gunning to get up there. It looks like there's a lot of margin of error up there.
I like how you, and that's the funny thing about this conversation, right? Is like, as much as your thoughts about your willingness to go up there or not are valid, you can't afford it. I'm imagining.
You just told me to get that problem out of my head.
I'm just saying, dude, like, I don't think it's gonna be like the Western Express, bro. I don't think you're gonna be able to pull in that mug for $50 a night and park up and see some space shit. You know what I mean?
It's not gonna be that easy. You don't see it be a seamless a day trip on the last second day trip. Just like, let's go to the space station, man. Let's go chill over there.
I see it being very exclusive, very expensive, to the point of potentially being invite only, at least, especially at the beginning, right? And if not to be blackety black about it, but when I think about it, it's like this is another frontier, and it goes beyond like blackness, right? It's also a class thing, but it's also like, all right, so now who's gonna get to be in space? Like rich people, right? And I just think what that says about who we're sending up there and making that a luxury experience, think says a lot about who we are. That's all.
I'm okay with it being a luxury experience. I mean, not everything. Some things are just luxury experiences. You know what I mean? If you want to take, they have Air Galactic that Virgin Air had a while back. They did these various space tours, right? I mean, for a certain amount of, and then people pay a certain amount of cash, and then they get to go into zero gravity. Those zero gravity tours, at first they were expensive, and then they started like listening up on the prices. So I'm not against things being reserved for the the few that can afford it, if that's what it's for. I don't think we need to be in space. if that is, I hope that's not too strong of a statement to make, but I don't see the need to race there when there's so much here on earth that we still need to figure out. So if that is a luxury thing that stays there, so what, man? Let some rich people do that.
I agree with you. I mean, I agree. I don't know if we necessarily need to be in space if that's a physical like human need. But then, so think about this, right? Like think about it as like the sea, right? Like you don't need to live by the ocean. You don't need to see. You don't need to have waterfront property at any point in your life, right? You know what I mean? But like at a certain point, I think that's a beautiful thing for people to be able to experience. And even the extent of people buying up waterfront property and making it private beaches where people can't, regular citizens who can't afford to pay for that experience can't have access to just being able to go to the beach, right? And like there have been uh, things put in place by different governments to prevent that, to keep certain beaches public. But I think about that, you know what I mean? And yeah, I'm being a bleeding heart about it for sure. But like, if you think about space and being able to see that and the perspective it might give you to be able to see the world from space as a human experience, I just think that that's something that everybody should have access to if that's something that's possible, right?
Yeah.
So
Usually these things come in the phases of gradual implementation and gradual commonization, if that's even a word. But you know, slowly getting the interest up there, and then capital interest follows. Once the market demand follows, capital interest follows, and then very gradually you see the price of things slowly start going down. You know what I mean? So that's just like the natural progression of these things. When trains first came about, it was when let's say public trains first came about, it was only the reserved for the rich that could experience that way of locomotive. And then over time, the demand increases and the price goes down. I think we see something similar with that. Now, am I going to be going? I would love to go. I'd love to go at some point. I think that would be cool. Why not?
yeah. But I mean, I think to go back to the point about like, yeah, eventually demand will go down. But I think for better or worse, whoever gets to go first and build things and establish a culture in any given space is important, right? Like if if people go up into space and they decide, well, there are so few restaurants in space that all of the restaurants are black tie, right? And now it's like, oh, well, now even if I could potentially afford to go to space, I don't have a suit and tie. You know what I mean? It's just like I don't. Why does everything have to? Why does every experience, even something that's so important for humans, your humanity, have to be filtered through that capitalist system? Why can't people just have access to the thing because humans made a way to have access to the thing? You know what I mean? And I think that that's you're to some extent you're right. Like that is what would happen. Eventually, it would be there would be public transport. You'd be able to take the shuttle bus version of the tour. You know what I mean? Rather than the luxury space ride to the moving elevator thing. But like, I just think that the fact that we default to just being like, well, let the market decide who gets that is it's everything. And I think that just speaks to that.
Yeah, it does. And the difficult thing about the market being able to determine things is that sometimes you'll have companies, for instance, that would want to be able to make that happen, but are binded by, let's say, the capital costs that come into making that. You know, so when someone's going to invest in being able to create something of that sort, one, they need to be able to get some cash from somewhere to be able to build, let's say, a space hotel. Now, whoever's lending that capital is now going to insist on there having to be a return for it. And in order to get the quickest return, you have to increase the prices, increase the experience, cater to the people that would be able to pay for that experience. Cater to that bracket, that value bracket. Is it a 4-star hotel? Is it a 5-star hotel? Those things absolutely matter as well in terms of the packaging that you're qualified for to charge. So capital interest definitely it doesn't allow for the most open, welcoming thing of it, but even people with the right intentions of like making a public space station are still binded down by costs at times.